Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for X-Men 97, Episode 3, Fire Made Flesh. Uh, as we pick up from the events of Episode 1 and 2, we were left with a crucial cliffhanger that if you're a fan of the comics, you probably know a little bit of what may be happening, but boy, the way everything was presented on this issue and this episode was fantastic. Also, if you're looking for more X Men 97 number 1, the comic book came out this week as well as of the release of this third episode. Make sure to go to your comic shop, check that out if you want to know a little bit of what the X-Men were up to prior to the beginning of the series. So, we're going to get into spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, go check it out. It's fantastic. Another great 30 minutes, well spent. I really like the runtime of these episodes because they get to tell, they cram a lot. There's a lot in here. These episodes are very dense. A lot is happening in a very small time, which the old show used to maybe sometimes split up into 2 episodes. So it felt like sometimes the episodes were longer for no apparent reason. All right. So as we left off in the end of episode 2, another Jean shows up. So of course, Beast has to put her under the microscope. Jean is, we're gonna say other Jean for now. We do have a name for this other individual. Everything was definitely revealed in this episode. But yeah, Beast is doing some studies on this other Jean that showed up at the door, while present Jean was probing her mind, and she runs into some memory gaps. There's a lot of missing information, but there are some flashes, some sinister flashes, if you know what I'm talking about. Beast actually carbon dates both genes and determines that the other gene, the one that showed up at the door, is the real one. So we'll call her Real Gene from now on. And Clone Gene will be the gene that we met in episodes 1 and 2. A mysterious voice calls Clone Jean as she's over a baby monitor as she's putting Nathan down to bed. And meanwhile, all the X-Men are trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Who made this clone? Who's after her? Can we even trust Clone Jean? It's some great performances, especially by the voice cast, especially the voice of Jean, both Jeans, because there's a lot of emotion that comes into play, and you'll see some of that in a minute. So, as we discover that this voice is actually Mr. Sinister, if you remember from any X-Men comics or the original cartoon, it looks like he made this clone. He unlocks Jean's mind, which unleashes an inferno. Now, if you're a fan of the comics, you know the Inferno storyline. You know that the Jean clone is actually also the Goblin Queen. She takes on that mantle for a big part of the episode. She transforms, which looks really. Any animation for the Goblin Queen and that Jean transformation looks great. Fantastic choice of colors. They really resonate and stand out from everything else that we were seeing. The cartoon uses a lot of the primary colors for the heroes and a lot of the secondary colors for villains, or kind of characters that are maybe a little bit shady. So she really stands out wearing the all black, with her magic being purple and green, which is interesting because Magneto's also dressed in purple. So we know that originally he was not a hero, right? If you read Inferno, in this story, a lot of inanimate objects come to life, possessed by demons from the limbo dimension, that is attacking Earth. Well, this same concept applies where the mansion comes to life, but it's all done by the Goblin Queen, aka Clone Jean, her telepathic powers. So she starts. It's really cool. The mansion, it starts to attack everyone. Like, X-Men are kind of all over the place except for Gambit and Rogue, which that's a whole other bag of cats. We don't have time to get into that relationship. I'm sure we'll actually reckon with some of that in later episodes, because they definitely have been setting up this love triangle between Rogue, Magneto, and Gambit. But yeah, very cool stuff. Really cool designs for all the things that come to life. It feels like if Disney did something like really dark. Like it's very very fun. I really enjoyed it. So we also get to see some really cool combos. I think Bishop and Cyclops have a really cool combo when the X-Men are literally sent into hell, uh, where Bishop asks Cyclops to charge him, and then he unleashes all that power. That's Bishop's ability, right? He can take on energy and redirect it in very cool ways. Which one of those ways is usually through his gun. Very cool stuff. So yeah, the real Jean snaps out of it. She wakes up everybody from the Inferno. In the meanwhile, the Goblin Queen for now gets away. All of this has happened, and we were barely around half of the episode's runtime, which is insane. The X Men they move in on Sinister, while some of the other mutants stay behind. Sinister gets a hold of that baby because that's all he wanted. He wanted that Nathan. He wanted. He wanted Nathan the baby to make him invincible by dropping him into this like vat of acid, which contains a techno-organic virus. We'll talk more about that in a minute. One of the coolest thing that happens is because Morph, they know the location of Sinister's lab, so they turn into magic, which is Ileana Rasputin magic. They've turned into other classic X Men and from all over the place. They also turned into Spiral earlier in the episode. It's really really fun. They are a fun character to kind of have around. But I mean, Magic is one of my favorite characters, so it was really nice to see Magic show up in an episode. Uh, Once again, the Goblin Queen continues to attack the X Men as she is under the control of Sinister. In the meanwhile, at the mansion, Wolverine is helping Jean control her powers. Right? He asked her to like read his mind and focus only on his mind to kind of quiet all the other noise around. And of course, if you're a fan of the X Men, you know how Wolverine feels about Jean, which is a very wholesome way to bring her back. But then immediately, Jean just kind of once she's back and like she gets her mind back correctly, she's like, "Oh no, Cyclops is in trouble." And poor Wolverine is like a punch to the gut. Um, they Jean fights the Goblin Queen in a mindscape, so like everything's happening in their mind. So there's a lot of really cool visuals. They go over a lot of the history of Jean when she was the Phoenix, all the stuff that she's gone through. They went back to the meeting of where Professor X met her, and I think at this point, which is really cool, and they just did this recently in the comics as well, where Jean and Madeline Pryor, or the Goblin Queen, um, they have to reconcile their memories and kind of share them with each other because that's the only way both of them will be complete. And it's a really cool moment. It was a really cool moment in the comics when they did it recently. It was a really cool moment now where Jean is willing to share her identity, and also Madeline Pryor is like willing to share her own memories, right? The love that she had for Scott, like everything she went through her pregnancy and having a baby. She gets to share all that with Jean, so it's really cool. In the meanwhile, Cyclops and the rest of the gang, they go rescue little Nathan from the tube that Mr. Sinister has him in. As you know, Cyclops' concussion beams are one of the things that actually can hurt Mr. Sinister. I don't know why. It just happens in the comics. That's the little shenanigans that happen, and it was a big trope in the '97 series as well. But as I mentioned, little Nathan has been Mr. Sinister gets away. Little Nathan's been infected with the techno organic virus, which is how you get to Cable. If you're not a fan of the comics, that's how you get to Cable. So they decide that Bishop is going to take little baby Nathan into the future because unfortunately he only has enough power in his bracelet, and Beast doesn't have the technology to cure the baby. So they're going to send him up with Bishop. Now in the comics, it is Mother Ascani that shows up from the future to take baby Nathan. That he'll eventually grow up into Cable. Now, in the old series, the X Men have met Cable, but I don't think they ever revealed. Like Cable always kind of hinted at who his parents were, but they never actually confirmed that like this Jean and this Scott doesn't know, or I guess Madeline Pryor, they don't know that Cable is their kid from the future, which is insane. Maybe we'll get to see that in the future. But yeah, at this point, clone Jean, Goblin Queen, now going by the name of Madeline Pryor, leaves the mansion and that's kind of where the episode ends, except for a nice little preview of the upcoming episode where we see Storm is in a bar in Texas, and here comes Forge, an old friend of the professor, and he asks Storm, "Do you want to get your powers back?" And that's where we leave off, and that is leading to, fans of the comics know, the life that story that happens, which is really cool. A lot of that stuff actually happens in Dallas, where where I am from. So it's always fun to see the X-Men the X-Men visit your hometown. So great episode, really enjoyed it. I hope this was a very thorough recap. So as always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone.